It's time now to tackle the headline, and we're taking a look at the biggest storylines surrounding the free agents this season. There's restricted, there's unrestricted, there's all sorts of contract numbers on the table, guys. Let's take us through the list around the country. Macca, you reported on Brandon Starcevich a month or so ago and where he was at in the wake of that concussion. Where do you think he's going to end up?
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting one. I reckon he's the question mark. He's the one we can't really lock in just yet a while. We know he's back running. You reported that last week, that he's back running and they've got a real good feel, but there's still some tests that they're doing. There's a 2-year contract that had been on the table. There'd been some interest from WA clubs as well. So I think everything now has been parked to the back end of the year. So I think that's very much a watch this space.
Yeah, very much so. Now, Tom de Koning, Barnesy, it's hard to find another player that's been talked about this much, that's been photoshopped into more sort of club jumpers, the big man from Carlton. I mean, there's been huge numbers talked about, particularly out of St Kilda for him. Does he stay or does he go?
Yeah, well, it's never good news when he's putting off contract talks. That seemed to be our chief footy reporter at the Herald Sun, Jay Clark, reported that this week. He's putting it on hold. Traditionally, that means they're gone. I don't think it's completely the case in the Tom de Koning situation here. A couple of years ago, even Carlton people thought he was out the door. They thought he was going probably to Sydney or St Kilda then. He decided to stay. I think we're going to find out at the end of the year on this one. I think he's going to maybe flip back and forth, see the money. If Carlton improves and makes the top 8, maybe he stays. I don't think we're going to get a decision until September or October.
Yeah,
I was really confident that he would stay, but I'm starting to go the other way now. I'm really concerned.
Yeah, and you hear different things too. I didn't realise that he lived in Bayside, Melbourne. He could just about probably run a few K time trial to Moorabbin if he wanted to.
And the irony of this, he's one of the most loyal blokes you would ever meet. So it really must be wrestling with him at the moment.
Oh, he's probably hating it. But here we are talking about it again. What about James Worpel? Because you reported on this in Moneyball last week.
Interesting scenario with James Worpel. You would have thought he would have been signed up. There's a few other clubs that are really quite interested. I think Melbourne and St Kilda are both interested in getting that sort of, that hard-working midfielder. But I reckon he'll end up staying. If I'm a Hawthorn player, I don't want to be leaving Hawthorn. He's young enough to carry on for a number of years to come. And when he's not there, I think all those midfielders at Hawthorn, they bring a different dynamic.
He's very valuable.
I reckon they would miss him terribly. So I spoke to Hawthorn a week or so ago, and they did say that, all this talk that he's gone, forget that. They're really still keen to keep him. Yeah,
I think leaving Hawthorn at the moment, it's just a bit too risky. Even if they don't win the flag this year, they're just building something nicely that you don't want to be that bloke that's sitting there in 2 years or so thinking, I could have stayed, but I didn't.
And 2 years ago, he was a late signee as well. He took quite late in the season, so
that's probably a similar scenario, I reckon, Josh, in this regard, I reckon, for sure.
Now, the Hawthorn coach has kept himself busy over in Western Australia with that sort of quick raid mission on chatting to Oscar Allen. I feel like he's going. I don't know where you guys sit.
Oh, it just feels that way, doesn't it? Even after the noise and the wave last week, we still haven't heard anything about progress on any contract talks. Even after all the sitting down with the club and discussing his future as captain potentially, all that sort of stuff, we haven't had any steps forward on actually signing a new deal. He said in that infamous press conference that he sees his future in West Coast, but I wasn't convinced by that either. It's hard to feel like he's been supported by the Eagles.
You shouldn't be playing light of this, but it was almost a hostage video, wasn't it, really, when you look at it? He looked like he didn't want to do it. The club didn't want him to do it. Well, in the end, they forced him to do it. I think he goes. I really do think. And it might not necessarily be Hawthorn. I think Brisbane Lions are right in this, right up to their ears, and I reckon that's a big opportunity for him to go up there and play that Joe Danaher role. They might not need him the way if they win a flag this year, but I think that's the one to keep a watch on.
It's a massive loss for West Coast if he goes, and potentially Harley Reid might be on the block as well to get out of there at the end of this season. Like, if they lose those two, they're rubbish at the moment.
Oh, they were putrid on Saturday.
Without their captain and their best player potentially. So it's a real edge of the precipice stuff.
Yeah, you can't put a price on leadership at a time like this at the Eagles. Ed Richards is an interesting one at Whitten Oval, isn't he? Does he go or
he stays.
Or?
I'm convinced he stays. He's such an important player there. They've got a couple of ones done, the Dogs, but this is a real priority to get it done now. So I reckon he'd be looking at a 5 or a 6 year deal. I think it might even be a 6 year deal for Ed, but he's a really good player. He's such an important player going forward. There's interest. Don't worry, there's plenty of interest, but I'm pretty certain he'll end up staying.
In terms of unrestricteds, we've got a few names to rattle off here. Josh Matt Crouch is one. Stay or go?
Well, 18 months ago, he was basically out the door. He wasn't playing seniors. He was pretty much shunted and forgotten about. Now he plays every single game. He's in every centre bounce for Adelaide. I think he stays. He spoke a couple of weeks ago about how much he loves the club. I think he sticks around, and I think his sort of playing type isn't that enticing to rival clubs as much these days. That accumulator who is a great runner on the outside. So I can't see any reason why he would move on. Adelaide refreshed their midfield around in the last couple of years. I don't think they're hunting huge midfield talent at the moment, so it makes sense for him to sit
Yeah,
around.
and he really enjoys working with those young Adelaide midfielders. He's really keen. Happened to speak to him a couple of weeks ago there, and he's so keen to stay.
Yeah, interested to see what they do with this bloke at Carlton this week with Harry McKay out, Brody Kemp obviously out. What do they do with that forward setup? One of the most famous names at Carlton, Jack Silvagni, unrestricted free agent this year. I mean, I think we all assume he stays.
I'm
even just for
assuming
a
he would
couple.
stay. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he left. There'd be interest because he's an unusual player. He can play various roles, and I think that's really important. The fact that you've got that flexibility to play forward and back, and he's looked really good when he's played back. Surprisingly, because I thought he was a forward, but he can do both. He's invested in this group. He wants to keep going. I'd be surprised if he left. I'd lock him as I reckon stay.
Yeah.
He's arguably been their best forward.
Yeah, he
played
has.
2 games there, and he's been
They
probably their
don't want
second
him
best
to play
defender
there.
as well. So after 6 weeks ago, he hadn't played in 12 months, and people were wondering where he plays. He's super valuable to Michael Voss right now, so it's hard to see them letting him go.
Very, very quickly take us through these last 3, all premiership players, no less. Braden Maynard.
It's a business decision, I think, for Braden Maynard now.
So
isn't
go?
it? I think he'd be leaning towards go. He wants Collingwood to come to the table. I think he's sort of publicly urging them to give him more money to stay. But when you're getting offered what he is at North, I would probably go.
Tom Lynch,
Stay.
gamed up.
Yeah, stay. I think,
At this stage.
At this stage of your career, you've won 2 flags there. Just stay. It's important for him to stay, I think.
Yeah. And now this one's an interesting one.
What's he doing on the list?
Bontempelli,
How is he not
still
signed?
has not re-signed. He said at the start of the season, and I asked him 18 different ways, when, how much, how long.
Yeah.
He was adamant that it wasn't part of his psyche. You know, we want to get off to a good start to the season. Surely he is staying. He's finally going to be back this weekend.
It would be the biggest ripple in football in many, many years if he decided to pack up and walk out of the Bulldogs. He just has to say he's an ornament of the club. He's the best player they've ever had, potentially. It's just impossible to imagine him in another jumper, isn't it?
He'll stay. He'll stay for sure. He's taken his time.
The captain and the coach, both out of contract and taking their time.
2 really big key players. The coach and the captain, but I think he'll stay.
Yeah, you two, of course, will be right across it at codesports.com.au. That's it for Tackle the Headline. We'll see you next time.